Hello, fellow taxpayers, and welcome to another Yap session from yours truly. The new Game Plus update for Spider-Man 2 has just released, and while it did bring some great quality of life features, there's still some things that we haven't seen gameplay-wise from Insomniac's Marvel Spider-Man franchise. So, I'm going to just give some of my things I want to see in the next Spider-Man game. I don't think that they can add these as an update. I think it would take too much work, and I also think that it would be just better suited for a new entry in the series. So, from the charge jump, getting more utility to improving the parkour system, these are some gameplay improvements I would like to see in Marvel Spider-Man 3. Let's start off strong. So, first mechanic I want to see is a throwback to the PS2 era, and a mechanic that's still in the current Spider-Man games, that being the charge jump. Now, I know it's already in the Marvel Spider-Man games, and, it's fine, it works. However, a big gameplay improvement I want to see is being able to charge jump off of walls. This would take movement to a whole other level, since you would be able to fling yourself in another direction off of walls, which would then be possible to change that into the web wings or web swing, more wall jumps, and it would give the player more of an incentive to interact with the environment outside of watching where they need to swing. This would require the player to be more aware of their surroundings to use effectively, and it adds more variety to the movement system. While we're on the topic of walls, hello, wall sliding will also be kind of cool. But because again, in Spider-Man 2, like from the PS2, you could go flinging yourself in any direction. You could slide along a wall, hold it, and then jump off into the opposite direction, wrap around buildings. Like, it really just makes you take into account the environment more than what you need to do now. In the current games, you don't really need to take into account how the buildings are in relation to one another. But if you allow the charge jump to be used on walls, then you would actually have to take into account, okay, well, this building is X amount of feet from this building. Can I connect to it? How is that going to affect my web swing? And then it also takes into account the geometry of the buildings to really make you feel like Spider-Man. I know, meme to death, but whatever. I'm using it. But yes, improve the charge jump. I really want to be able to do it off of walls. I think it would drastically improve the movement system in the game. All right, our next mechanic slash system that I want to see. I know it's not going to happen probably, but I said it once, I'll say it again. I wanted it in Spider-Man 2. We kind of got it, but a physics-based web swinging system. Now, I know that like Insomniac's engine they're using probably can't do it. I don't know. I let a man dream. Let a man dream. Now, I know that if you turn the swing assist to level 0, it kind of makes it physics-based, but it's not really the same. That was a step in the right direction. Now, I think that if we can't at least have the physics-based web swinging system, that we could at least get tangible webs. Now, what I mean by that is, in the Spider-Man 2 PS2 games, if you were to swing and then if you were to try to turn around a building, your web would get caught on the building and it would become shorter. Now, this may sound like a bad thing, but it could be used to your advantage. If you're swinging really fast and you turn a corner on a building, then it kind of works similar to the corner tether that we have now. However, that kind of stops all momentum that you kind of have, and it kind of just keeps you going straight. It's not as intuitive as the old physics-based web wrapping around building system they had in the PS2 games. I think that we could still keep the corner tether for those tighter turns, but I think tangible webs would really make it so that like players actually have to watch where they're swinging even more so, and then it really also rewards players who take the time to learn the game swing system, who actually want to get good at the game. Now, for those of you who don't, it's fine. It can be an option. We already have our swing assist levels from 1 through 10. This can easily be an option that can be turned on or off in the settings. But for me personally, it's something I would love to see. We need more tools in the game for expression, and then that skill ceiling needs to be higher. It was raised in Spider-Man 2, and I am glad to see it, but I feel like there's always room for improvement. And these are two things that could drastically take movement to another level. A short point this time, but a really cool thing that I'm honestly surprised that we haven't had in Marvel Spider-Man 2018, Miles Morales Spider-Man 2 time trials. But I think that would be a really cool way to like show off player skill in a way. And it doesn't even have to be just basic time trials of go from point A to B. They could take inspiration from other Spider-Man media where the spiders have swung around through the city in certain areas. Like Miles could have a time trial where he does his leap of faith from the Spider-Verse movies, and he could swing that way, swing that path he took at the climax of that movie. Peter could have a time trial in Queens where he has to swing from one end of the train in reference to words are hard. I'm gonna redo this. Peter could have a time trial in Queens where he has to swing from one end of the train system in reference to the Doc Ock fight in Spider-Man 2. Things like that. Not only would this add more content to the game, but it's also a good way of testing players' web swinging, gliding, movement skills as well. I doubt Insomniac will add an online aspect to their single player games, but if they did, then this would be then they could have like some leaderboards, or they could even make it so that players can make their own time trials for even more content. Even if they don't do the whole player made time trial systems, I feel like they could definitely take some inspiration from Spider-Man media and create some time trials that really pay homage to the character's legacy. So the trick system was vastly improved in Spider-Man Miles Morales from Spider-Man 2018, and even more so in Marvel Spider-Man 2, especially after overhauling Peter's swinging animations. With the addition of the web wings, I think it would be cool if we got web wing tricks to give more player expression whenever they're swinging throughout the city. This is one of those mechanics that may sound great on paper, but I'm not really sure if it would work in practice. Like, how would they be able to glide and do tricks at the same time? I don't know if that's aerodynamically possible. Who knows? I don't know, but it's something that I would like to see if at all possible. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I think that the devs could be able to do it. And while we're on the topic of tricks, I did notice that all of Miles' tricks in this game are the same as they were in Miles Morales, which to me is a major disappointment. I feel like Peter's got all new animations, and it's so much fun to see him and all these new moves that he can do. But whenever I'm playing as Miles, it kind of feels like I've already been there, done that, considering he's doing everything that we already saw. I feel like they kind of chopped the ball on that one. Maybe if they had more development time, he would have got more tricks that he could have been able to do. But I feel like he not to say that every single trick needed to be swapped out for new ones, but it did feel to me kind of lazy that all of his tricks were the same. I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on that one, but it's something that they can remedy in either an update or in Spider-Man 3. Who knows? All right, this point it's a little lengthy, so strap in. Here we go. I really want to see an improvement to the movement system in the Insomniac Spider-Man games, that being a more in-depth parkour system. So Insomniac has put the web swinging at the forefront of their design philosophy, and that's very apparent given the improvements that we've seen in each title that has been released. However, the parkour system I feel, has been left by the wayside. We're 3 games into the franchise, and the parkour system is still very much automated. It's basically hold down R2, and Peter and Miles will just go over any obstacle that is in their way. It's simple and effective. However, there are ways to improve this. Starting by adding a slide mechanic, as well as allowing momentum to be carried upon landing on the ground or sliding along a wall. So these features would make the environment more than just a backdrop to swing around. Imagine carrying your momentum from a big swing and landing on a rooftop at high speed, sliding under an air vent, and then charge jumping onto another building, sliding along that building, and then charge jumping across the street at max speed. All of that takes more character input, takes more player focus and player skill. I feel like it would drastically move up that skill ceiling. Momentum carrying is one of those mechanics that leans more towards the physics-based web swinging system. However, I think the team at Insomniac can manage. I would argue that it would make the move where you bounce up on the ground after hitting the ground more enjoyable than what it already is. Because currently, when you land and then hit the ground, now you don't really have any much of an option to keep yourself going outside of that jump. But when you do, you kind of lose all that speed that you already had. Now, I'm not saying that hitting the ground shouldn't come with some punishment in terms of lost momentum. However, I don't think that you should just kind of stop it dead in your tracks. If you're swinging at 30 miles an hour and you hit the ground, why would you just all of a sudden instantly drop back to about like 5 miles an hour? These are superheroes. They have big bones, big strength, all of that. Why can't they kind of keep that momentum going? And even if it's not realistic, it's a video game. We are here to have fun. Whatever we can get to improve how the movement system kind of works, we need to make that a thing. So momentum carrying, sliding, and then if you want to change the controls for how parkour works and make it more in depth, that's also fine. But more to the point, as long as we get a slide and a momentum carrying, I think that would kind of help out the parkour system be more than just hold R2 and you'll go forward over anything. All right, here we go. Spoiler territory. So if you have not completed Marvel Spider-Man 2, now is your chance to skip to the time listed here to avoid being robbed of a spectacular reveal towards the end of the game. Don't worry. I'll wait. Are we all good now? Everybody beat the game? Good. All right, great. So since Cindy Moon, aka Silk, has been introduced to the franchise, she will need her own special skill set in order to stand out from her fellow spiders. Now, hot take here, I think Silk should have organic webbing. This would allow her to create web constructs with her fingertips. Now, if you've played Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. In that game, the amazing Dimension Peter could create, like, he could grab concrete off the ground, slam it into enemies, as well as create, like, web constructs, like web hammers, web spikes, and web fists. So since Silk will be able to create her webbing organically, maybe they could kind of draw inspirations from that game, but then kind of change them to kind of make it fit her character. So web shuriken, web swords, web knives, something that can make her stand out from Miles and Peter. And then she'll also need her own unique L3R3 move, or super move, I'll call it for now. So Peter has the symbiote surge, and Miles has his freaking nuclear bomb that goes off. I'm thinking Cindy should either get a super reflex mode, so where she can like dash between enemies and deal damage to all of them in an area, taking inspiration from her comic counterpart, who has super spider senses. Her spider senses is better than every other spider, so she can react to things far faster. So they can adapt that to a gameplay sense of her kind of moving faster than everybody else can perceive. Or if they don't like that, then they can do what I'll be calling a silk shot. So similar to Web Blossom, she would use her spider sense to lock on to enemies within range, and then shoot a bunch of web darts from her fingertips to incapacitate enemies. So moving from that along to her skill wheel. If you don't want to do the web construct in her base combat, then they could lock those two abilities and then have them last over time, or have them just be one-hit moves. Either way, they're going to have to add something that will make her feel special and give you a reason to play her over Miles or Peter. So while we're on the topic of the spiders being unique, let's talk about Miles Morales again. I feel like the devs forgot that Miles has the power to turn invisible when it comes to gameplay. I feel like there's a lot more that can be done with it, even outside of stealth. In a standalone game, he had a move called Blinding Light, where if he was invisible and then pressed L3R3, he would blind all enemies within range of him. This is not in Spider-Man 2. I don't know why. I really couldn't tell you. But it needs to make a comeback. That was a really good move that, again, allowed for different options in combat. And other options that I also don't understand why, if Miles goes invisible and then punches one guy, all of a sudden they all know where he is. That doesn't make any sense. I feel like they could give him different properties for him being invisible while he's in combat. I mean, maybe if he is invisible and then he hit maybe 4 enemies, the 5th one takes like some heat damage, because Miles, again, like he can kind of bend light around him. Maybe he can have some sort of heat power with that. I don't know, but we just kind of need more uses for his cloaking ability. Maybe have some more finishers where he like actually goes invisible. Granted, they already kind of do that if you are invisible, but just for the sake of more character expression, feel like that could be useful. I honestly, for this point, I don't really have many suggestions here. This is just me spitballing something that I want to see. Most other points, I have a suggestion on how things can be done. I'm gonna be honest, for this one, I got nothing. I'm just spitballing. Also, for the memes, Give Miles his lightning sword from the comics. It does not have to make sense. I don't care. This man tanked a nuke, and he's a walking nuke. He can just explode on contact. Pause. I feel like he can have a lightning sword. I don't know. It doesn't have to make sense. It's a superhero game. Just let us have fun. All right, let's talk about the last thing I want to see in Spider-Man 3 or the next Spider-Man game that they experiment with. They would really take combat to another level, and that's a grab system. So in Spider-Man 2 on PS2, you could like hang people from street posts while grabbing them. You could grab them and pummel them. You could grab them from range up with the web and grab them closer to you. Throw them in the air, jump back up, grab them again, kick them across the street. You could throw them back down to the ground. You could do air kicks. There were so many things that you could do with the grabbing system. So for Spider-Man 3, you should be able to hold triangle in the spider you're playing as, well, grab an enemy from range and bring them closer to you, allowing you to pummel them up, throw them into the air, throw them into other enemies, web them up, etc., etc. There's so many avenues that you could take with the grab. Either it can be close range, it could be range. Honestly, it should be both. And then also you should be able to grab people in the air. I don't see any reason why you can't be able to do that. In this game, you can bounce enemies off the ground, so I feel like we have already left the realm of reality on that sense. Like, they are not staying grounded in reality. If Peter and Miles can bounce people off of concrete and they are dead, we can have aerial grabs at that point. I don't think that's asking too much. So it would give the player more combat options, because at that point we would have your standard attacks, your super moves, the R3 moves, and then you have the ability wheel. If you add a grab system on top of that, there's so much room for expression and combat options. And then also you can have new enemy types that had to be weakened with the grab first, enemies that are immune to grabs. All of this gives the player more options, and if there's one thing that has to be said for any sequel, it should always give the player more options. So yeah, that is my list of things that I would love to see in the next Spider-Man game. Pardon the obsession, but Spider-Man is one of my favorite characters of all time. And any suggestion I could give that can get us closer to the perfect Spider-Man game, I will definitely give my opinion, even if it's long-winded. So apologies for that, but if you would like it, who knows? If this video does well enough and the people love it, I can make a part 2. I can always think of things that we can add in a Spider-Man game. So anyway, I've kept y'all here long enough. Go enjoy your day, maybe your night, who knows? Whatever time it is for you, have a great day, night, and maybe if you leave a like in a sub while you're at it. I know, cringe, but I have to advertise. Anyway, shameless plugs done. All right, I'm gonna catch y'all.